Stop scrolling, because what Tom Homan just said in 2026 is about to change everything. The man Trump calls his border czar just went live and dropped a message that's exploding across the country. Mass deportations are coming, and this time, nothing is stopping them. We're already deep into 2026. Over 1 million removals have already happened, but Homan says Phase 2 is here, bigger, faster, and targeting the millions still here illegally. No more delays. No more loopholes. Families, workers, sanctuary cities. Everyone is now in the crosshairs. The outrage is instant. Democrats are calling it heartless. Activists are flooding the streets. Even some Republicans are nervous, but Homan isn't backing down. He's looking straight into the camera and telling America, this is exactly what you voted for. And it's only getting started. I just broke down his full 2026 statement, the shocking new numbers they're hiding, and what this really means for your job, your taxes, your safety, and your kids' future. You're not going to believe how big this is getting. If you want the raw, no-spin truth in 2026, smash that like button right now, so I know you're locked in. And I'll drop the complete breakdown in 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's get right into it, because what Tom Homan just unloaded at the Border Security Expo in Phoenix a few days ago is shaking the entire country to its core in this spring of 2026. He stood up there in front of a room packed with Homeland Security folks and industry people and didn't sugarcoat a single thing. He looked straight ahead and said it plain as day. Mass deportations are coming, and this year is going to be a good one. He even doubled down with that now famous line, "You ain't seen shit yet." Those words hit like a thunderclap because we're already months into 2026. We've seen hundreds of thousands of removals already happen, and Homan is making it crystal clear that Phase 2 is about to kick into high gear with 10,000 more agents hitting the streets and no more delays or excuses. Think about that for a second. This isn't some vague campaign promise from years ago. This is the guy Trump handpicked as his border czar actually overseeing the operation. The same man who ran ICE during the first Trump term and knows every loophole, every sanctuary city trick, and every way the system has been gamed for decades. He's not talking in hypotheticals. He's talking about families who crossed illegally years ago, workers who overstayed visas, and entire communities that have been living in the shadows while American taxpayers foot the bill for schools, hospitals, and housing. And the numbers he's dropping behind the scenes are staggering. We're talking over 800,000 formal removals between ICE and Customs and Border Protection since Trump took office again, plus millions more who have self-deported because they see the writing on the wall. Homan is promising to hit 1 million a year, and he's not backing down even when critics inside his own base start calling him soft on X or wherever the keyboard warriors are hiding. Now, here's where it gets really intense, because the second those words left his mouth, the outrage machine fired up on full blast. Democrats in Congress are already labeling the whole thing heartless and cruel, calling it a war on immigrant families and painting Homan as some kind of villain who doesn't care about human lives. Activists are organizing protests in big cities, sanctuary mayors are vowing to fight in court, and the usual media outlets are running non-stop segments about separated families and children caught in the middle. Some even brought up that tragic incident earlier this year in Minneapolis where 2 U.S. citizens were accidentally killed during an ICE operation, using it to demand that the entire crackdown be shut down. Homan addressed that head-on in interviews, admitting mistakes were made and saying changes were put in place to make operations safer, but he refused to slow the mission. He reminded everyone that President Trump made a clear promise to the American people, and he's the one tasked with delivering on it. No more catch and release at the border, no more looking the other way when someone with a criminal record slips through, and definitely no more letting sanctuary cities tell federal agents to take a hike. But let me pull back for a minute and walk you through why this moment feels so urgent right now in 2026. For years, Americans watched as illegal crossings hit record highs. Fentanyl poured across the border, killing tens of thousands of our kids every year. And violent gangs like MS-13 set up shop in neighborhoods that used to feel safe. Wages for working-class Americans stayed flat while housing prices skyrocketed because of the extra demand from millions of new arrivals. Schools in certain districts became overwhelmed, hospitals turned away citizens because emergency rooms were packed with people who couldn't pay, and local budgets strained under the weight of it all. That's not hype. That's the everyday reality millions of families have been living with, and it's exactly why voters sent Trump back to the White House in a landslide. They wanted the border secured and the laws enforced, not more empty talk. Homan gets that. He's been in the trenches for decades, and when he says mass deportations are coming, he means starting with the worst offenders, those with criminal convictions, national security threats, and final orders of removal that have been sitting on the books for years, then moving outward to anyone here without legal status. He's even talked about flooding the zone in places like New York if they keep passing laws that block cooperation with federal agents. More ICE officers than those cities have ever seen, collateral arrests included, because when you're rounding up targets, sometimes you catch others who are also here illegally, and yet the pushback keeps coming from every direction. Progressive lawmakers are screaming racism and xenophobia, claiming this is about punishing brown skin rather than enforcing the law. They point to stories of longtime residents who built lives here, kids who were brought over as toddlers and know no other country, and families torn apart. They argue that mass deportations will wreck industries like agriculture and construction that rely on cheap labor, and that the economic fallout will hurt everyone. Some Republicans are nervous too, quietly worrying that the optics look too harsh in an election year, or that businesses will complain about labor shortages. Even a few voices inside the administration have been caught whispering that maybe the pace needs to slow down. But Homan isn't having any of it. He calls those people keyboard warriors who don't understand the mission or the mandate the American people gave. He's already overseen the hiring of thousands of new deportation officers and says a few thousand more are on the way. The funding is there, over $170 billion allocated, and the equipment, the technology, the partnerships with local law enforcement in willing states are all lining up. This isn't a drill. This is the real thing happening in real time, while the rest of us watch it unfold on our phones and TV screens. Let's talk about what this actually means for you and me, the regular folks scrolling through this video right now. If you're a construction worker or a roofer or someone in food service, you might finally see wages start to climb once the illegal labor pool shrinks. If you're a parent, your kids' classrooms might get smaller, and teachers can focus more on actual citizens instead of language barriers and overcrowding. If you live near the border or in a high immigration area, the strain on emergency services and public resources could ease up. Crime stats that have been quietly climbing in certain cities might start trending down as repeat offenders get sent back. Homan keeps emphasizing that they don't deport U.S. citizens, period, and that the focus stays on people who broke the rules coming in or staying here. But the sheer scale is what has everyone on edge. We're talking millions still in the country with removal orders that can be executed today. That's not fear-mongering, those are the government's own numbers. And with self-deportations already happening at record levels because people see the heat coming, the ripple effects are already being felt in some communities where restaurants and farms are suddenly short-staffed. At the same time, the human side of this story is impossible to ignore, and that's what's fueling the outrage you're seeing everywhere. Families who have been here for 10 or 15 years, kids who speak perfect English and consider America home, they're facing the very real possibility of being uprooted and sent to countries they barely remember. Humanitarian groups are sounding the alarm about children caught in the middle, about due process concerns, and about the cost in human suffering. They're asking whether this aggressive approach is worth the chaos it might create in the short term. Homan's response has been consistent. The law is the law, and enforcing it is what keeps the country safe and fair for those who follow the rules. He points out that legal immigration is still wide open. Millions come every year the right way, but the illegal side has to stop. He's not celebrating the pain, he's just refusing to look away from the bigger picture of sovereignty, security, and fairness. And here's the part that makes this whole saga so gripping in 2026. We're not just talking about one press conference or one speech. This is a rolling operation that's going to play out over the next several months and years. Homan has already said this summer is when things ramp up even more, with more agents, more interior enforcement, and zero tolerance for cities that refuse to cooperate. We've seen glimpses in places like Minneapolis where operations were paused after those tragic mistakes, but then quietly restarted with new protocols. We've heard the threats to flood New York and other blue strongholds if they keep shielding people from federal law. The courts are going to get involved, lawsuits are already flying, and the political temperature is rising fast. Meanwhile, everyday Americans are split right down the middle, some cheering the crackdown because they've waited decades for it, others horrified by what they see as unnecessary cruelty. Social media is on fire with both sides screaming at each other, and every new arrest or raid becomes instant viral content. So where does that leave us as we sit here watching history unfold in real time? It leaves us with a country that is finally trying to live up to its own immigration laws after years of neglect, but at a human and political cost that nobody can fully predict yet. Homan keeps saying the promise will be kept, the mission will continue, and Americans who voted for this deserve to see results. Critics keep saying the approach is too blunt, too fast, and too indifferent to the people whose lives are being upended. Both sides have pieces of the truth, but the one thing that's undeniable is that this moment is massive. It's going to affect jobs, communities, politics, and daily life in ways we're only beginning to feel. And the best part? You're seeing it happen live, not through filtered news clips, but through straight talk from the man in charge. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who wants the full unfiltered picture, instead of the 30-second sound bites the mainstream outlets keep feeding us. This is the kind of story that doesn't go away in a week. It's going to keep evolving, keep sparking debates, and keep forcing all of us to decide where we stand on borders, laws, and what kind of country we want to be. I'm going to keep following every development, every new number Homan drops, every city that pushes back, and every impact it has on regular Americans like you and me. So if you're as locked in as I am, and you want me to stay on top of this story week after week, do me a huge favor right now and smash that like button hard. It tells the algorithm you want more of this no-spin coverage, and it lets me know you're in this with me for the long haul. Drop a comment below and tell me where you stand. Do you think mass deportations are long overdue, or are you worried about the human cost? I read every single one, and the conversation is already blowing up. We're only at the beginning of what could be the biggest immigration shift in modern American history, and I promise I'll bring you the next chapter as soon as it drops. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching all the way through. This is bigger than politics. It's about the future we're building right now in 2026. Hit like if you're ready for more, and I'll catch you on the next one.